As hard as it may be for some people to believe, money doesn't have to be complicated. Sure, there are complexities with money in anyone's situation, but there are always opportunities to simplify. My dad used to say, KISS, aka keep it simple, stupid. Don't make things more complicated than they need to be, especially with your money. Whenever you have the opportunity to simplify and reduce complexity with your money, take full advantage. If you're not sure where to start, in this episode, I'm sharing a few ways you can simplify your money situation and keep things as simple as possible. The easier you make things in your finances, the more brain power you can give to working on your financial goals. So the first way to simplify your money situation is to get organized. Now, last week's episode, I went through 6 very important ways you can organize your finances once and for all. So make sure you check out that episode because getting organized not only simplifies your money situation, but makes life easier as a whole. So depending on your current situation, getting organized may require a bit of upfront work. I'm fully aware of that. But once you make the time investment, things will be so much more efficient down the line. So yes, it may take a lot of upfront work right now, but it will be worth that work in the time you save in the future. So what does it look like to get organized? Well, a few things. First, you should always know where all of your accounts are and what your standing is in each of those accounts. So this includes, checking accounts, savings accounts, debt and credit accounts, medical accounts, retirement accounts, insurance plans, and brokerage accounts. So I go through this in major detail in last week's episode, but I suggest creating a repository of all your accounts. So this could be as simple as an Excel spreadsheet that lists out all of your accounts, where the account is, and what the purpose is for each account. Now, another way to get organized is by listing out all of your credit and debit cards, numbers not required, and getting clear on your purpose for each of them. So do you have any extra debit cards that you don't need and you can just close out? Like maybe you don't even use that account anymore. Where are all the cards currently? What's the purpose of each card? A list of this information will always come in handy for future reference, and it's a great way to just keep that organizational train going. And finally, you can get organized by actually setting up a financial filing system for yourself. So anytime a financial record document, something comes in, you have a process for actually filing that information and making sure that it's safe and keeping those things up to date. Listen to City Girl Savings podcast episode number 21, setting up your own financial filing system, for a step-by-step walkthrough. I'll make sure to link to that in the show notes. Now, the next way to simplify your money situation is to automate wherever you can. So if you're not familiar with the term, automation means you basically set up a system or a process to run automatically, taking out the need for consistent manual actions. So things that can be automated in your money situation include income received. So this could be your income or your paycheck being direct deposited into your checking account as opposed to getting a physical check that you have to take this manual steps to get into your account. Another way money can be automated is paying bills. So you can have automatic bill pay set up versus either mailing a check or going into each of the billing service providers and making the payments manually month over month. Another way to include automation in your money situation could be saving. So setting up automatic savings transfers or having a portion of your paycheck direct deposited into a savings account as opposed to you having to go to the bank and deposit actual cash. Some other ways automation can impact your money situation: contributing to a retirement plan. So this is usually pretty standard. It's usually automatically done on its own if you are contributing to your employer's 401k plan, but basically a portion of your income is being taken from your paycheck and put in to a retirement account. So that's automation at its finest. If you contribute to an IRA and you have to like manually make that transfer yourself, that's not automation. So automation is a great way to simplify your finances because it takes out a lot of that manual work off the table for you. Things are running in the background on autopilot so you can focus on doing other things. Automation makes your life so much smoother. So don't procrastinate getting your system set up and running, even if you just take it one automating system at a time. Just work towards getting everything automated when you can. The next way to simplify your money situation is to find a budgeting process or system that actually works for you. So budgeting is not one size fits all. What works for some may not work well for others. And what doesn't change though is the fact that we all need a budget. So that means you'll want to find a budgeting method that actually works for you and your personality. And the only way you're going to do that is by trial and error. Get out there and try different things. Don't be afraid to try different strategies or to switch it up until you find a strategy that actually works for you. So for me, I actually use the zero-based budgeting method, and I combine that with manual spending tracking. And this is the process I actually help my clients with as well. But basically, I know how much money should be coming in for the course of the month. And let's say it's $5,000. That $5,000 is allocated to all of my spending categories, essentially leaving me with zero at the end of the month. So that's why it's called zero-based budgeting. You're budgeting your income down to zero and making sure that it actually goes according to plan. So while I thrive on the zero-based budgeting method, someone else could thrive on the 50-30-20 budget rule and keep tabs on their spending through an app. So if you don't know, the 50-30-20 budget rule basically says that 50% of your income is allocated to like bills and life necessities. 30% is allocated to lifestyle expenses, so the things we enjoy. And then 20% is allocated to savings and or extra debt payment. So it's basically a simple formula for how your money should be allocated. And my point here is that there is no right answer. You just have to find the budgeting method that actually works for you. So what works for me may not work for someone else, but we can all find a method that works for our personalities and makes budgeting and money management easy to follow. But it all starts with actually having a budget. So if you need help with getting a budget set up, I create budget plans for my clients. Get started today by going to citygirlsavings.com/start your budget, and I'll make sure to link to it in the show notes as well. The next way to simplify your money situation is to get rid of accounts you don't need or use. So remember that list I mentioned that we put together in the first tip? It's time to put it to use. Any account or service or subscription that you have and you don't need or you don't use it, get rid of it. The more accounts, subscriptions, or services, even things around your house that you have and don't use and don't really need, the more cluttered you feel mentally and physically. So I want you to review the list of accounts that you have and spend some time going through them and closing out any accounts that do not serve a purpose and won't serve a purpose in the future. Now, if you can repurpose accounts, that's totally fine. Like, for example, I am of the notion that there should be one savings account per goal, right? So if you are saving for your 35th birthday trip, you would have a savings account for that trip. But once you take the trip, you don't have to necessarily close that account out. You can reallocate it or repurpose it to your next savings goal. So you can definitely absolutely repurpose accounts, but also don't be afraid to close out accounts if you truly won't use them. Now, the only exception is credit cards. So I know a lot of times people ask me if they should actually close their credit accounts when they've paid the balance off and they don't plan on using those cards. And my answer is no. I say that because even though the account has a zero balance, keeping those cards open keeps your credit history for that account open and running. And the more history you have, aka the longer your accounts are actually open, the better your credit score will be. So the only exception to this tip is don't close any credit accounts, even if they are zero balance. Keep them open. You don't have to use them, but just don't physically close those accounts. Next way to simplify your money situation is by focusing on one money goal at a time. I know I've talked about this before on the podcast, but I think it's really important. I am, a high achiever. I want to achieve all the things and I want to do it all at once. And it just doesn't work like that, especially with your money goals. So if you're someone who also has like a lot of goals they want to work towards, you're not alone. I totally feel you. But when you focus on too many things at once, your attention and your resources are divided out to too many things. And that essentially means that it will take you more time to actually accomplish those things. So if you're giving, 10% to 10 different goals, as opposed to maybe 100% on one goal, it's going to take you forever to reach those 10 goals. And then you can focus on one goal at a time, knock that goal out and move on to the next. So, I think focusing on one, maybe two, depending on your situation, goals at a time, really allows you to devote your mental and physical resources to seeing that goal through. When it comes to your money, I think, unless you have a large enough profit every month, it really is best to focus on one goal at a time. However, if you do have a lot of profit, you can get away with focusing on, 1 to 2 goals. Just make sure you're putting all of your extra resources towards reaching the goal. And once you've accomplished it, move on to the next one. There are plenty of episodes on this podcast that talk about different goals that you could set. If you're not sure what you should be working on in terms of financial goals, getting an emergency fund in place, paying off debt, getting, a close by short-term emergency fund funded, saving for retirement. These are all things that will have a tremendous impact on everyone's situation. So if you don't know what to focus on, you can focus on those things first. The final way to simplify your money situation is to make more than you spend. I know this sounds so simple in theory. It's so much harder to implement, but it will make your life so much easier if you can learn to master this. When you spend more than you make, you open the door for debt or to use savings when you shouldn't. And that doesn't sound so simple. I'm telling you, undoing those effects of overspending, it's not simple, it's not easy, it's not fun. So instead, make it a point to only spend what you have coming in and strive to have a profit every month. That way, your profit can go towards your savings or just your goals in general. So how do you manage or make sure that you are making more than you spend? Well, you're going to have to leverage your budget, right? Because your budget is going to tell you what should be coming in, what should be going out, and what's left over. So make sure you have a budget set up and you leverage it to understand the minimum amount of money you need to bring in to cover your expenses and spending. And then from there, once you know your minimum, you can actually work to bring in more money if you want or need to. Now, if you can't seem to make your income work, you're going to have to find ways to cut back, right? So if your income is not covering all the necessities, you're going to have to reduce your necessities if possible. And if that's not possible, your focus has to be on bringing in more money. So you'll know instantly, okay, I need to make more for the work I'm currently doing, or I need to find additional streams of income so that my necessities and, expenses and general spending can be covered. At the end of the day, functioning in the negative is never wise. It doesn't make things easy, and it can lead to more problems down the line. So focus on making more or spending less, or a combination of both of those, and things will get so much simpler for your money situation. Now, I am fully aware that trying to implement everything all at once at the same time is not simple. So take it one step at a time, one tip at a time. As you get things done, you'll start to feel more in control. And once you're in more control, you'll see just how simple things actually can be in your financial situation. So take it one tip at a time and work towards making things as smooth as possible, as simple as possible in your financial life, and you will feel the benefits and you'll see the benefits in your bank account.